Hello everyone, we're back to Female Founder Through the Pandemic. We are halfway through, more than halfway through now, and I hope you're enjoying all the little interviews we've put together for you with these amazing women. And today I'm here with Caroline King. As you now know, I let my guests introduce themselves because they're much better at it than I am. So over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Fran, for the opportunity. I'm really excited to be part of this Female Founder series, and I think it's a really great thing for us to be doing at the moment, learning from each other. So who am I? So I'm Caroline King, and the last 6 months of 2019, I completely retrained. So I moved from a world of corporate communications that I'd done for 20 years, and I retrained and I started a business in January of this year as a financial planner. So what that means is that I help individuals and business owners make better decisions with their money, basically, in a nutshell.
What a time to retrain and start a business.
Oh yes, yeah, definitely.
So obviously you already told us that you started in January this year. How were things going, and what happened when the lockdown hit and everything changed?
Okay, yeah, so definitely wasn't factoring in lockdown in week 11 or 12 of a new business, so that definitely was a bolt from the blue. In terms of how things were going, I got up to a good start. I'd started gathering some clients together, started going to some different networking groups, I suppose learning how to do the job, because it learns all the theory but putting it into practice. So it was very early days, but I was busy and I was enjoying what I was doing. But then when lockdown struck, like everyone else, and particularly small business owners, you're suddenly thinking, wow, what can I do now? What can't I do now? And, how do I best spend my time? So I can still do what I do using video technology and phone, which is great. But obviously, like you sort of alluded to, now, although people should be thinking about money and are probably thinking about money and worrying about the future, understandably, most people aren't beating a path to the door of a financial planner because they're more concerned about, hang on, my food bill's suddenly 4 times what it was because my kids are constantly asking for food, or, is my mortgage lender going to let me, not pay my mortgage payments for a few months while things settle down? So people have got much more immediate financial concerns. And also the media, again, understandably, is reporting every day on sort of the economy shrinking and markets and those sort of things. So one of my sort of jobs really, when people do talk to me about, the state of their finances and the state of the economy and what might happen in the future and those sort of things, I'm trying to offer reassurance really and say, well, you know what, if you looked at the stock market every day of the year, even in a non-coronavirus situation, it's going up, down, up, down, up, down. And if you've got your money invested in there and you track it hour by hour, you'd be pretty stressed out all the time because that's the nature of it. That, what's happened now merely just makes things a little bit more volatile. But when people have made, suppose, really solid financial decisions in the first place and they've protected themselves and that sort of thing, some people have got a lot fewer worries on that score. So yeah, it's fair to say the business is has been, hit with a bolt from the blue. From my own perspective, I'd only just started going to certain networking groups as a financial planner, so I wouldn't say I'm particularly established in any of those groups. So now I'm trying to do some online networking, like many people who network, which is actually a lot of fun, but it is a bit different. And you're suddenly exposed to some new people, and you're sort of sitting in your home office saying, hi, I'm Caroline and this is what I can do. And it feels a little bit weird compared to sitting in a coffee shop talking to someone who's physically next to you where you can really get a rapport going. So I've got that. And trying to reassure existing clients, but in terms of sort of new business, it's actually quite hard to generate new business at the moment doing what I'm doing, predominantly because I'm sort of so new to it.
Yeah, I suppose though the online networking event also means, or at least for me, it meant that I could reach out to people who are not local to me. So I've been in networking events which were actually local. So my local networking event who have been brought completely online, but I also have been to a networking event I couldn't attend before because obviously I'm not local to them. And that has generated some good contacts and some good interactions. So there is obviously, I do get you when you say about the non-personal, touch and the fact that you're not physically there in a coffee shop sharing. And obviously online, I find it's a bit more difficult for people to tell you about their worries probably and their personal things, whether it's easier in front of a cup of coffee and in a closed room, isn't it? But I did find that the non-local restriction was positive for me. So it might be a plus in this case.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I think that's a really good point. I've definitely made quite a few new connections and also stumbled across people who maybe I've spotted on social media in the past, or I've seen them comment on things related to someone I'm already connected with. So I would say that my network or my circle, however you want to look at it, has broadened. And I think what's been really so heartening about the whole process, and this applies to people who are saying, I don't know what to do about homeschooling too, I don't know what to do about my business or whatever. I think the social media particularly and networking groups, I think we've realised that everyone generally is super supportive, and if you sort of put your hand up and say, I'm not sure about this or I need help, tons of people say, I feel the same, or I've been there and maybe I can offer you an insight. So I think it's really nice how forthcoming people have been. And when you do these sort of networking things and you really tune in and listen, you pick up loads of tips because people are all going through very similar thought processes. And it's actually quite a safe way of listening and getting loads of ideas. So if you're less confident and don't want to speak out as much, you'd still get a lot from the process. So for people who may be more reluctant face-to-face networkers, and I'm not one of them, but a lot of people are quite reluctant to walk into a coffee shop with a group of strangers, the online networking world, I would think would be, really one to consider pursuing for people.
Yeah, I have been to a networking online event, I think last week or the week before, and they gave people the option of not being on the video because people were, again, I'm like you, there is no problem for me being in the video or a face-to-face networking, but I do know that people are struggling with it. And so I agree that it's a good way to listen without being seen.
Yeah, definitely. And we're all learning new great technology together, aren't we? Zoom and Teams and all these other things. It's really useful. Once you overcome your audio issues, which I seem to have at the beginning of everything. But yeah, I think that's really good. And it's proven businesses that weren't operating sort of remotely and said, we can't, and they've now been forced to. I think it's great for me to see businesses being forced to modernise and people thinking, well, hang on, I can work more flexibly. So I think it's opened a lot of people's eyes to, different ways of working, which I think is always a positive.
And I suppose, did you find that during this time, your background in communications has helped? Because obviously now you're doing a completely different thing, but obviously you've got all this background and all this knowledge about getting people to connect. And did you find that helped you transition towards a more online kind of business?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been sort of amused by, look at this great technology now that we're using, because I'm thinking, well, a year ago I was using all this sort of stuff and, implementing, using this sort of stuff in the old business that I was part of. So a lot of it's not new to me, and I was always a big advocate for new ways of working. So like I said sort of a minute ago, I think it's great that people are being forced to consider new possibilities. In terms of the comms skills, absolutely, definitely, because I'm seeing what I've known all along, the power of connections, how, a positive thread on Facebook at 8 a.m. when you wake up feeling a bit rubbish and a bit down, it can really lift your spirits. And, all these sort of people you'd never connect. And like you said, Fran, you're now able to get involved in networks that either were geographically not possible, or certain groups where they were membership only. They're having to sort of open their doors to wider people. So I think it's great that much broader circles are connecting. And I've always been, you know, the sort of, when I was working in communications, my full ethos was always about making connections and working in a collaborative way. And I was probably more into collaboration than even many of my colleagues, and they weren't against it, but I could see that really you're always better together. So you've got your own ideas, you know why you're doing things, but I always think you're stronger when you're sort of working with networks and teams and things. And so I watched that on social media play out, where someone says, I'm not sure about this, and someone else jumps in, well, I've done that, and then someone else, and you can see a new little network forming. And it makes me smile, because I think, well, that person has been worrying about that, and now there's 5 or 6 people, and they're going to have a chat, and they're going to be so much better off for having just spoken out. So I think that's really strong. I've also been really impressed from a comms perspective at how some people, I suppose, have, you know, been forced to repackage what they do either completely or, you know, take a face-to-face thing online, or certainly pivot or change the way they have to do things to survive. And I've seen some brilliant little marketing campaigns and, you know, great blogs and things from people who haven't got a comms background. So that always really impresses me, because I think, you know, that's brilliant, because they're being really true to themselves. They're putting themselves out there, which is a risk. And people are so receptive when people are genuine and they're saying, this is me, this is what I can offer, you know, are you interested type thing. So I find that, you know, that gives me a sort of a warm feeling inside. I'm not cynical about things like that. I think, well, that's brilliant. If someone can express themselves and someone else connects, and they make that connection and maybe can work together. I love seeing people take charge of their own sort of brand and communications and just be themselves. And when you can see those glimmers of success, I think that's really, really powerful.
Yeah, and even just doing this series, I have found, I have listened to so many women talking about all these new things they put in place for things. Some of them just slightly changed their services. Some of them came up with a complete new range. Is really impressive. And even things that I thought, well, you're kind of stuck now with all that's happening, like my gym. I'm just making an example because I interact with them every day. They've gone online for people to retain their memberships, and when they've gone online, they've just not only kept the lessons at the same time, so you keep your routine. So if you were training at 6 a.m., you still train at 6 a.m., but you're in your car, in your lounge instead of. But also they've put in place all sorts of wellness challenges where they ask us to post how many steps we do a day, to post what are we cooking, that, you know, to show that we're cooking healthy meals. Or they've done this competition, this shred games, which we do anyway twice a year, but not now. They've just moved them so that we are motivated to keep fit, and the winner wins £200. And it's all of this, but also they have started doing free online weeks for your friends. And example, my best friend lived in Liverpool for 8 years. Now she lives in France, but she signed up. And then she put a post and she said, I've signed up to this gym. They're doing a free week online. And all her Liverpool friends can see the post, and then they can become members when the gym reopens. So it's a whole lot of new things to explore, isn't it? And amongst all of those that you put in place, the new things, is there anything that you're thinking, well, you know what, that can work when this is all over? This might open a new market for me, or a new way of working.
I definitely think the geography point that you referred to before, you referred to it in terms of networking, but for me, because the sort of way that I deliver my services is basically a face-to-face service, and there's loads of good reasons for that. You know, you're dealing with some sort of sensitive, detailed information about people. However, what this has proved is actually I could open myself up to clients all around the country and beyond, but really you could open yourself up to the UK and use technology much more effectively, rather than, you know, getting in a car, hopping on a train, paying for hotels, seeing someone. And you could certainly, you know, engage people a lot easier up front and change the, I suppose, the process and simplify it for the client, and just really think about client experience, because everyone's time poor. And I think, you know, when, you know, everyone keeps saying when things go back to normal, you know, and they will. It just seems a bit unbelievable at the moment, but, you know, 6 weeks ago things were normal and we were just looking at news headlines. But when things go back to normal, people will be, you know, trying to catch up with work, and there will be probably even more time poor initially in trying to re-establish new routines. So I'm sort of quite conscious there. Well, I'm not going to suddenly have people saying, yeah, I've got time for a 3-hour face-to-face meeting. They won't have. So it's really about connecting with people in a different way. So I think that opens up different opportunities. So I'm pleased about that. So it's just working out the best way of sort of marketing things in that way.
Definitely, yes. I think that's true for a lot of the women I've actually interviewed. We discovered that everything we decided wasn't possible online actually is.
Everything is, yeah, definitely.
So, as usual, we end with 3 positives. And this is my standard sentence here. You did give us a lot of positives already, but do give us the top 3.
Okay, well, obviously this is me, so there's sort of 3.5. So I've written them on lovely little bright post-its. So the first one is take one step at a time and don't put yourself under too much pressure. I'm sort of working in almost 1 or 2 week chunks in my head, because if I think what things going to be like in 3 or 4 months, that would make me personally feel a bit overwhelmed. So you've got to work within your own comfort zone. The second one, and I have said this, is you are surrounded by people who will help, advise, support. And that's not just friends, not just family. It's people you've never met. And if you put your hand up, loads of people will come to your rescue, and they could become really sort of lifelong acquaintances for you. So, you know, definitely think about that. Next one is take time to reconnect with who you are and why you do what you do. I think that's really, really important. And then a link to that, so it technically is only 3, is consider all of your skills and experiences. So like you said with me, Fran, the fact that I've got a background in something different but something so transferable, I can apply that to my own business. I can definitely offer friends advice, and I've offered in the last sort of 6 weeks, more advice on communications, paying the prices, how to brand and market. I'm so familiar with people without having plans, so being able to give them some, you know, insights that hopefully have helped them. So draw on all your experiences, don't just be sort of confined to what you might do now, because maybe something that you did in a Saturday job when you were 16, what a skill or resilience or something you learned then will come in handy now. So sort of think about your experiences at home and just pull them out the bag and put them into play.
Oh, I love that. I've actually been giving a lot of events advice lately for people who want to bring their events online and just go, well, it's going to be boring because it's just me. And I've been giving a lot of events advice, and like big events, I didn't do for quite a long time. So yeah, definitely, I love that. And if people want to connect, come have a mooch on your website, your social media channels, where do they go?
Okay, so website is www.carolineking.co.uk, and you can connect on LinkedIn. You can just find me by searching Caroline King, and I'm pretty much one of the first people that comes up. So that's the sort of official business side of things. If you want to connect with me on a more personal, you know, lifestyle way. So Twitter's the best one. That is at Kings and Cubs. So that's KINGS and Cubs, CUBS. And if you look soon, you will see the first lockdown haircut that I did last night on one of the kids. So that's definitely worth tuning in for. I'm also on Facebook, so that's just Caroline King. But I tend to use the similar pictures on everything, so you sort of know it's me. So yeah, you'll find me pretty easily, and I'm sure Fran will include the links, etc.
Yes. Listen, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as usual talking to you. And I will speak to you very soon.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Fran.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.